Hello and welcome to Muse Jam session 191. My name is Dani Beaumont. I am off screen today because I am joined by half of Leslie and all of Aaron Lawrence from Pivotal Labs here. We did a session at Adobe Max, and in the session, Aaron and Leslie presented on a workflow that they use with Adobe Muse here at Pivotal, which is where we are today, to actually prototype user experiences using the tool. So rather than hear me talk for another hour, I thought it'd be great to let them do the heavy lifting. I'm gonna ask questions as we go along. If you have questions for them or for me, throw it into the chat. As usual, we'll open the table for any question about the tool if we have time towards the end. But with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Leslie and Aaron at this point. Hello and welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Cool. It's great. So just like what Dani said, we're going to walk you guys through a real life example for a client that we did in the solar space. And we're going to show you how we used Adobe Muse to design and craft out an experience to test with real customers before we actually built out the actual real experience and worked with engineers. Hence the title of the talk, Fake It Till You Make It. We're not actually talking about faking your skills till you making it. We're talking about fake out your experience using Adobe Muse. You can fake it by designing within Muse, and when you design within Muse, you're designing by using code without actually writing any code. So you're faking out the product in a real life example before you have your real engineers build the actual piece. The reason why we want to do that is we want to test out our experiences. We want to make sure our decisions are right, and we want to change while we're designing within Adobe Muse and not change when we have engineers build out the actual real code base. The reason why is change can be expensive and inefficient, and it's faster for us to learn about the experience before we have our engineers craft out the experience. So I'm going to walk us through some of the site that we built. This website is online. It's called maxandpivotal.com, as you can see in the top left. You can go to this website at any time, and you can reference all the material here that we have on this site. Again, there's Leslie and myself. So again, we are designers. I'm a design manager, and Leslie's a product designer here in San Francisco at Pivotal Labs. A little bit about Pivotal Labs. We're a product consulting agency. We consist of PMs, designers, and engineers. And we work from anywhere from a mobile experiences for iOS and Android. We do tablet applications, and we do web applications as well. These are some of our examples of our work. I'll just go into a couple of these. These are real life examples that you can find on the World Web. Some applications here, some mobile views. We did some work for Macy's, some e-publishing. Most of our clients are startups and enterprise, about 30% startup, 70% enterprise. I'll kind of go through some of this pretty quick so we can just get into the meat. What's unique about us is our clients come on full site and they work with us together. We don't go to their office, pitch our work, come back, do a bunch of work. Typical agency model. We're more consulting with our clients full time in our office here in SF. We believe in a balanced team approach. That's PM, designers and engineers coming together working as a core team. That's called the balance team. The reason why we want to do that is the PM is going to understand what's best for the business needs. The designers will understand what is best for the user needs, and the engineers will know what's technically feasible. And we want to have product decisions right in the middle here so we can understand, is it technically feasible, is it good for the business, and is this desirable for users? Another thing that makes us unique is that we pair. If you guys are new to this, pairing is where two designers will get together and they'll work off two monitors, two keyboards, and two mouses. And here's the kicker, hooked up to one computer. So only one designer actually works at a time while the other one thinks. Our approach here...
I'm sorry, you said one works while the other one thinks?
While the other one thinks.
So you're paid just to think?
Yep. So here at Labs, we tell our clients we're really about quality, right? We're not about quantity. We want to do things right. We want to make sure that we catch leakage. And the more eyeballs that we can have on our design, the more unknowns and the more edge cases that we'll find. And that will set us up for a better design going forward.
Cool.
How to sell your client on that is it's about quality. So if your company wants more quantity, then pairing's not for them. If it's quality, then pairing is for them. The product approach that we try to tell our clients, that we teach our clients, is called an MVP approach. That's a minimum viable product approach. That means we don't have to build out the entire experience to launch an application to see if we're right or not. In this diagram, we're going to show you what a MVP looks like. That is the strip here on the left where it says do this. And a product that's an MVP will entail 4 areas. It will be delightful, it will be valuable, it will be usable, and it will be feasible. You don't want to just do what's feasible, you want to include an entire package, hence this little cupcake right here. An MVP is like a cupcake, and an actual real giant product is the cake. So first we're trying to get to a cupcake so we can test the cupcake, and we'll iterate a cupcake eventually to become a giant cake as we go forward. Some of our processes that we're going to focus on here is we have a technique here at Labs called the discovery and framing process. In the discovery area, this is where we go out and validate and learn about many problems. And then we prioritize the subset of problems that we're going to solve. And we're going to make sure that those are the most important problems for the MVP to be solved. Next is we take those problems and we start to generate concepts. And we test out those concepts to see what worked best. And those solutions will eventually be prioritized to 1 or 2 possible solutions. Then we'll have our engineers start to build out the solutions that we prioritize, and we'll continue to iterate as we have engineers starting on the design. So as you see, we're going to start from faking it, and then as we get our engineers involved, we'll actually have them start to make it. So where we're going to actually focus the rest of this talk, and I'm going to hand it over to Leslie here, is on this framing section. This is where we test out concepts, we test out wireframes, and this is where we use a lot of Adobe Muse to make it look like the real application, but we're really faking it in the background. We didn't have our engineers build it yet. And then we'll show you what the engineers built. So we'll give you a sort of side-by-side comparison of what we built with Adobe Muse, hence what our engineers built with HTML and CSS, and you can't tell the difference. It's very much like we faked it.
Hey, Aaron, like when you present, have you ever had chat like start to come up?
Yeah, yeah. Have you guys?
Might want to
close that one off, huh?
Maybe as you get on that, I'm going to answer a couple questions that have come out here generally. There's one request on tutorials. If you go to muse.adobe.com/tutorials or /events, so muse.adobe.com. I'll type that in there. That's a good place to get a lot of tutorials. There's some work there on animation, whether it's Edge Animate of old or Animate CC, or the new, which used to be Flash Pro, which is now Animate CC. They all save out OAM files that Muse now supports from an animation standpoint.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Good to know.
No, we're not derailing that much.
Okay,
cool.
Continue, man.
All right.
I know. I was like, this sounds really exciting. I want to learn more about that. Okay, all right, let's jump back into the presentation. Thanks, Aaron. So the big thing that we show next is this idea of a UX iceberg to our clients. Oftentimes, we have our clients really expecting to see design purely on the visual side. They want the whiz bang, they want animations, they want colorful stuff, they want delight right away. And for us, we've really stressed with them, it's really important to build out a strong foundation from the conceptual features and ideas. What are the needs of the user? What are the interactions and workflows? And then once we move towards understanding that, then we can start attacking visual design. So that means for us is that we move up the fidelity as we learn more and feel more confident about all the things that we've built up. And so what we want to share with you today, especially using one of our products that we worked on together, is showing you how we use at every step of this iceberg. Thanks, Erin. Okay, so this is literally how we fake it till we make it. Before we go into that, it's going to be really helpful to talk about how those of us at Labs, there's some of us that use Muse, some of us use different tools. So here's a great opportunity to talk about the differences between the two. So Muse and using any kind of tool that provides static mocks, yes, you're going to have clickable prototypes or clickable mockups. That's totally great. But in terms of like interactable elements, that's something where Muse is really shining. You're not going to see that using something like InVision. Having a testable link, great, we'll have those things too. But for what Muse is also really great for in terms of handing off work to developers is there's always this question of like, is this going to be responsive, and how so, and what does that look like? And being able to hand that off in one file to developers is priceless. Also showing transitions, that's really lovely. We can introduce elements of delight immediately to our users, and that's terrific. Same with video and GIFs. Yeah, and then the part where it's going to be less useful is really designing for native platforms. That's where looking at InVision is a useful place. All right, so the big thing we want to talk about as an example is a solar project that we worked on. And the focus of this product was we had our client ask us for some help. Their big problem was that there was a period in which from the point of sale of, yes, I really want solar in my house and closing that deal to actually having that power on state occur, there was a period of very little communication. And that was a period where people could have the opportunity to cancel or could feel very confused or frustrated about not knowing what was going on. And so providing, literally shedding light on a dark period in the sales process was really going to be helpful. So what we did was we made a responsive web application to help new customers through that entire process. So we can go a little bit into the goals, which is let's make sure that customer service is really tight. They're not feeling like they need to call our customer support team. That it really gives users a sense of like, I feel trustworthy and I don't really want to cancel, or I don't want to have to deal with I don't want to deal with like thinking about canceling, and that I can refer the people I really love to use this tool too. And then for the product themselves, they can really understand the status and how things are moving and what's done and what's going to happen in the future for this process.
Awesome.
Great. All right. So here are a couple examples of the concepts that we started with. So our big thing is that we love sketching with our with all the different types of stakeholders. There's PMs, there's business people, there's marketing, all sitting together. And what we have them do is we work on a feature together and we have them sketch that out with us. And what that really does provide is ownership across the board. Everyone's contributing their ideas, and you can see little dots here that show you UI elements that people liked. And so that helps us as designers really facilitate better work. More ideas means more ways, more opportunities to innovate on different parts of the UI.
Yeah, it's like the sooner you bring in your clients and you give them involvement, as you carry on the road of conception, they're less likely to come in and what we call a swoop and poop or poop and swoop. Yeah, and this is a good term. This is when they come, we've all had it, clients swoop in out of nowhere and they have no context and they go, what are you guys doing? And they don't like it. They poop on it and then they leave. And you're left with like all this feedback that you didn't need. So we've learned that if you hook in clients early, get them involved in sketching, they'll feel ownership in your design as well. And they'll be less likely to poop on it.
Yes. Sketching does decrease pooping, which is great.
And the sketch is cool.
All right. So this is, again, I really love this little animation part that Aaron made, which is like the bottom of the little iceberg. Okay, cool. Concept. So in terms of concepts, we were exploring two different ones. Concept one was really just this horizontal experience that was really straightforward from left to right. And we were trying to figure out, could they understand that more led to a drawer that showed up, and was that content going to be relevant or useful for them?
So from a technical standpoint, how did you go from whiteboard to, where am I now? Is this actually a web page?
Yeah,
So
this is Muse.
That was a nice leading question.
I love it.
So you scanned in the photo?
Yeah, it was all Sharpie, and we scanned it in. So you can, at low fidelity, you can just drop literally a PNG into Muse and then make it interactable, which is really, really lovely.
And we used a pre-built-in widget in Muse. You can use what's called the basic lightbox widget, and you can make it into this sort of transitional slide-in from the left. And that was really cool to bring a sketch, but also pull in real interaction using Muse.
Cool.
Yeah. So then the other concept that we were exploring was just a lot of content where you're showing the steps, a video, being able to share, seeing the contact info, and we tested both with users to get a sense of, well, how much enough information is enough, or how much is too much.
So did you do variations of sketches and put more or less in front of the clients, or did you just ask them what they saw? How did you figure more or less from this individual drawing?
I think the thing that we had was on the business goals here. We had a business goal that people were going to refer and do referrals and drive referrals. So we really thought on the second option here. One was a more of this timeline that all of us in that sketching exercise came to agreement that a timeline to show the steps of solar is a great like snapshot into what you're going to do without having to read through a lot of content. Gives you that real quick, this is 6 steps to solar. Where when we got to this concept here, concept 2, we were thinking about like big share buttons on Facebook to drive referrals. And we found that that was great for the business, but it wasn't great for the user. And what we teach our clients is we are still want to do things that are great for the business, but if we make our users and our customers happy, ultimately we'll make the business happy. Where if we make the business happy, we may not make our customers happy. So that
will affect the future of our business.
And that will definitely affect the future of our business. And that's what we're trying to do as user experience designers is we're trying to craft out experiences that customers love, and then eventually will lead to solving out some of the business needs or the business goals, say like make more revenue, or making it matters, right? It's actually to fake out these experiences before we have people build them, because it can be costly and inefficient to change real code. Back to Leslie, everything good on my audio?
I think we're relatively good. Sorry guys, I think my network is bad, but you guys are pretty tight.
I put us on my phone hotspot, unless you want to get on that one too. That might be helpful.
Yeah, maybe we can do that while Aaron's doing his deed.
Oh, so I can keep going.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep going. We're good.
So
now that I'm back, we're probably
we're all back. Is everybody? Can you hear us? See?
Quick audio check, folks.
Quick audio check.
Thanks, James. All right,
everybody
continue.
Good? Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Hopefully we didn't cut out too quickly.
Just as a technical nuance, I am your audio. It's connected to me, so if I drop, we drop audio.
Oh, we all drop. Okay, cool.
But we're on my personal hotspot now, so
well, I haven't switched to that. So why don't you switch me there? I don't know. Let's leave it alone because I don't want to drop the audio.
Okay.
Just keep going.
Cool. All right. Let's jam. All right, cool. Thank you all for working with us. We're going to keep going here.
Yeah.
So you can see the obvious winner.
The obvious winner was concept 1. And we started out bringing in some illustrations to start testing out. And that's the other great thing about Muse is you can put anything in, right? So we can put in an illustration and see how people respond to it without going into something more high fidelity. All right.
So Valerie's suggesting they lost a large part of the previous part of the session, but Valerie, we're going to keep going. There's good news and bad news. The good news is on the YouTube recording, when I post this up, I have a link to the full hour-long session that we did at Max, and some of it is a subset of that. Fingers crossed, if we can keep me on the network. I don't know if there's any hardwiring me to the room, because we're about to jump into actually a session where we're starting to get into the wireframes now and using the Muse tool. So hang with us. We're getting a little closer to the exciting bits.
Yeah.
Cool. And then just to recap, what you missed was we shared 2 concepts. Concept 1 here had a timeline. Concept 2 had like Facebook share features for referrals. Concept 1, this was the one that most customers liked the most, and it was just easier to understand. So we're going to dive deeper into how we take that concept up that UX iceberg and put more fidelity into it.
Absolutely. Okay, so at this level, we were able to bring in more content and test that. And you can see some illustrations are coming through. We can actually start working out the responsive aspect of this design already, which I think is pretty early for most designers. I think that's really lovely. Yeah, and you can start showing what things are going to look like across mobile. So then when we started testing, we could test both at the desktop and on tablet or mobile as well. Can they still, again, find what they need to find on this site? Can they find the drawer still, despite there being new content and us upping the fidelity? Yeah. And you can see what it looks like to move through the different steps, what content changes, are they able to understand what happens at every step. Yeah, so it's really great to be able to share this with our users.
And one key thing when you show a user a screen like this, you can always just prompt them by just saying, walk me through this screen. Speak out loud. Tell me everything that is on the screen and what it means to you. And that's how we're trying to validate the content and validate that it actually makes sense to these customers.
Thanks, Aaron. Oh, and then this is the end of, once they've hit the last step, they see this really fun idea of like fireworks. Your solar's gonna be powered on like momentarily, which is really great. And so the idea is that, can we take illustrations and take them to the next level? And you will see, oh yes, the other thing is that you can see some photos of us interviewing users in their homes. Some people, you can tell by this person's body language that they're super not into any kind of technology feedback around how their solar is going to be, where they are in that process. And then you just see how busy our users' lives are. You know, you have a child on your lap, you have groceries that you haven't even packed yet, your dog is feeling really weirded out by people visiting the house. Really, it's just, our users are really busy, so how do we provide them a good experience that helps them understand what's going on in a really easy, short way. All right, so then now we're dialing up the design fidelity. We're coming out of the water. So this is great because now we can take our illustrations to a much higher fidelity. And again, check to see how that's going. We put in a cute little sun, which we can talk to you more about that later. We started introducing colors and like playing with the colors and typography.
And this is all still just Muse prototyping, just faking it.
Still faking it.
Until you got it right.
Yeah, we're faking it. We're faking it all the way.
Looks like it's responsive as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So in one sitting, we were able to test out the web version, and then we would tell our customers that we were testing this with to pull out their mobile phones, and we'd send them to the same link and have them explore the mobile side as well to give us feedback on that. And we had little variations on the two, but nothing was really different from mobile and a web, except for the vertical layout was about the only thing we changed.
Sweet.
Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's keep going. I'll walk through the rest, and Leslie can talk out loud.
Sure. So again, we're moving through the different steps, making sure that users understand they can move through every step of the way, that the content makes sense, how they're responding to the illustrations. And then when we get to power on, hey, we can go into After Effects and make our own fun fireworks and see how people like that. And the great part about this is the whole like transition from faking it till you make it, is you can show your developers, hey, can you make this? Because I just faked out this really cool experience. And can you make some fireworks for us?
So you kind of shame them, is that what you're saying? Like, dude, I'm not even a coder and I could do this. Of course you can, right?
Hopefully it's the opposite of shaming them. It's giving them some inspiration. So they're like, yeah, I want to do that because I can make it happen. So we gave it to one of our developers, and within a day or two, he turned it around, and you'll see what he did.
So we got a question from Susanna. Were your engineers able to use any of the code that was generated from your prototype?
So,
Great question.
so here we have some very top-level engineers, and they're highly opinionated on the way that they architect their code. What they're going to do is they're going to open up the expect window, as you can see here. And they can actually come into here and start to expect content. Like, what's this font? I'm not doing the best job of selecting it, but they can come in here and get colors and CSS attributes and apply that to their own code. So to answer your question, there's two parts to this. The engineers we work with here will not want to use the code that Adobe Muse generates because we're making real code for real clients. But I have used Adobe Muse on the side projects, and I built out a website for somebody, and they asked me to work with their engineer. I gave the engineer all the HTML and CSS and JavaScript and JSON files that Adobe Muse exports when you export the HTML. I sent it to him, and the next day he had the website up, and I asked him if he used it, and he said yeah, and he loved it. So it's all depends on who your engineer is, but to answer your question, yes, it is actually it is capable to use the code that it has and give it to an engineer and have them rip it up to however they want to use it.
Which I think lends itself to Ash's question. You don't recommend Muse for real websites after all. what I would suggest is I hear there's a spectrum. Sometimes it's absolutely, you'll hear of even in a coding environment, having a pop-up site, a microsite, something really quick. In the Adobe world, we used to really look at, we create personas of our own. And there's a Muse designer whose name is Marissa, by the way. And then there's a Dreamweaver coder whose name is Jason. And I created a new person. His name is LJ, which is basically Lazy Jason, which when Jason, depending on the needs, although he can code it up, sometimes he chooses not to because Muse is absolutely terrific. And if you do want proof in the pudding, on that microsite, muse.adobe.com.
Why don't you just take this?
Oh, it's not. Oh, you're not.
Yeah, we're not using, yeah, but it might be.
Give it a shot. I know someone was using it before.
Hey, folks. Hi. Hey, Valerie.
Yeah, thanks, Valerie.
So give me an extra thumbs up that we're good, but I think we are. Talking by ourselves is really lonely. Gary says, cool. So we must be good. So what I would suggest, if you look at site of the day, so muse.adobe.com on the site of the day page, there have been thousands and thousands of websites that I've personally seen that are submitted there. All of those sites, unless we make a mistake and select someone who's spoofing us, are built in Adobe Muse. I think that Muse over the last 4 or 5 years has proven the case that, as two designers once said to each other in a podcast that I'll never forget, we've been admired for our design, for our ability to listen to our client, for how quickly we turn things around, our price competitiveness. Never once has a client admired our code. Have you noticed that? So I think if it fits the bill, there's real value to that.
Yeah, I mean, I create websites on my own all the time. Have many websites on my own, but in the agency world for clients, we're building web applications that have real back-end data. So that's a little bit different. But yeah, it's all depending on the need of the client, and they're not looking at code. So just think about the front end need.
And I do think that some of the code still is valuable regardless of the experience, or I guess like caliber of developers you're working with. Just them knowing, what's the animation speed on this, or to have being able to look at the code and just start a conversation with us about how things should be. I think that's just a great starting point, regardless of whatever it is you're deciding.
Cool.
Or coding. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So we showed you guys sort of what you're looking at right here is how Leslie and I faked it, right? So we have this design here. It looks and it acts like the real thing. And now we can show you the real thing.
Yeah.
So let's get.
Welcome to the real thing.
All right, y'all ready? Okay, so remember, here's what we showed. Here's the thing we built.
The cute little sun with glasses.
And this, where's my pizza? This is the thing the engineers built.
Right. So you can see a lot of the illustrations, the animations, the interactions are all the same. So much of it is the same. Now, we are personally saddened to have lost that cute little sun in replacement of a t-shirt.
Can't win every battle.
Can't win every battle. But I love that. I feel like this is still a win because we speak most of the design, like 99% of it, is what we designed together with them.
So Ash is asking, did you code the real thing with Dreamweaver? Do your developers use Dreamweaver? Are they hand coders?
So they're doing hand code. So they're going to start with scratch, a blank HTML sheet, and within 3 or 4 months they'll have a full huge backlog of code, 10 to 20,000 lines of code with backend integration.
Susanna is saying, what was the limitation of the Muse that made you feel you couldn't design it? To keep in mind for a moment, Susanna, Pivotal Labs has hundreds of developers. They're a development company. They're a consulting company. They'll work with very large clients, Uber and Boeing, I've heard word of. Mm-hmm. And these are major, major projects. So for this type of consulting company, they have many coders that'll spend, 6 engineers spend 6 months to build out a solution. The nature of this company is not necessarily a small design agency. Right. So I don't know that it's a limitation of the tools, maybe just the breadth and depth of the back-end data that's being driven by something like an Uber app for the phone. You're not going to build that in Adobe Muse and then hand it over to an app developer necessarily.
Yeah, most clients like Uber came to us to say, hey, can you build out our technology that we're going to monetize and privatize for ourselves, and we use that. So we're crafting out that experience, but they're going to make it private for their own company.
Excellent.
Yep.
Cool. Then we can show them the final.
Yeah. Do it.
All
System
right.
on.
Want to prep them? Because it's going to be fun.
Are you ready for this?
Bring it.
All right, here it goes.
No connectivity dropout now. Oh, there you go.
There you go. So we
You
got
won. You
we
got
won.
your fireworks.
We got our fireworks.
You can click everywhere, and then you can make your own fireworks.
Oh, woo.
Beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. So easy.
Yeah.
Ha ha. Cool. So there you have it. That's again, you know, we're gonna go look just real back. This was the real deal, and here's how we faked it right here. So the fake and the make, pretty much very similar there.
And the amazing thing as well with this session, the deck that you're showing, that we presented at Max, there are a number of different processes. We can't cover it in this hour, but you're welcome to take a look at all of the steps that they went through for lots of different use cases. Aaron and Leslie, it's a bang-up job, just the finished site that we have. So as I mentioned on the YouTube recording, I'll give you a link. You can always just grab this URL, which is Max and Pivotal, so maxandpivotal.com. And there are extensive examples of the prototyping work that they did.
Right. We cover like web apps, and we also cover marketing pages too. So it really covers the full gamut of what you can do with Muse and prototyping.
So
great things.
You want to swing over to the app and show maybe a little bit about how you built it out?
So it's not, you know, it's not all that fun just to see what we built. It's also more fun to see how we built it. So here I have Muse open, and I'm going to come over here and show you the original file where we, it's been stripped out a little bit so we can be a little quicker on the loading. But just to show you how we built this out. So I have my home page here with that welcome illustration. And you can see, I'm going to go into Illustrator really quick. You can see I've made that illustration right here in Illustrator. And I'm going to copy this, just Command-C, copy. I'm going to delete this so you can see it. And I'm going to Command-V, just paste it right into Muse. And you can see that Muse created an SVG, a scalable vector graphic for me. And I can scale this to any size that I want. And since it's a scalable vector graphic, it's not going to pixelate, meaning it's not going to go down in the quality of the image. So I can scale it to any size I want, because that's how designers work. I usually don't put something in one area and call that how I see it. I usually have to fuddle and fist with it a little bit, scale it, downsize it till I get the design right. Another thing that I've done here is I've made 3 pages here, right? So if I go into here and I do a preview site in browser, that's my engineer working right here, that little loader bar. That's them writing code. So right now it's writing the code for me. And we'll also have about 10 minutes at the end for more Q&A as well. So I know Dani may be priming some of your answers here, but feel free to, and if you have a question, to just hold on and type it up here and send it to us in a second. So you can see I can click this button and it's going to take me to the next page. So how I did that was I made a button here. And I've, in this little hyperlink drop down right here, I've selected intro. That's the page name of my other, the name of my page that I want this button to link to. So I go back over to intro, and it will link me over to this page here. All right, so here's the design itself. Just give it a second. All right, and let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, first thing I want to show you is just how we did different breakpoints. So if you take your mouse and you have this little gray rectangular box here in the top left, and you drag this in, this is going to mimic the actual browser. So when I go over to the page here on my actual Chrome browser here, when I squeeze the internet dialog window in, it's squishing the content down. And that's what Muse is doing right here. It's doing the same exact thing. It's just saying, hey, how is this layout going to work at different widths? And you can see I'm going to set different breakpoints. So when should I create a breakpoint? You should create a breakpoint when your layout starts to break. So you can see that my layout's okay at this point, but it starts to get kind of ugly. And as soon as it gets ugly, I want to make a new breakpoint so I can relay out the design to make it pretty in that particular width. So I want from my iPad width here, and now I'm going to go down to my mobile width, which is totally different from the layout that I have on my website. So again, there's no tool right now in the market that will allow you to first design using real code and load that code into a browser, an internet browser, and send that to people and test it. Second, there's no real application in the market right now that allows designers to really design in a responsive website or application. And right now, I think this is a really great tool if you're working with engineers to go learn, because it will do two parts. It will force you to think about how to design responsively and actually test it in the browser, so you can go back and forth from Muse and test out your design. Second, if you're working with engineers, it shows them your desired behavior between screens, and that's really important for them. A lot of times when we give them static mocks, they're asking us, web doesn't work in a static way, right? Like, people don't, this isn't static, this has different widths and different sizes. So they have complexity that when designers work in a static area that we're not aware of. So Muse is really good to get out of that. So what I've done here is I've made a kind of bare bones design, because I want to show you guys just real quick like how I can put this design together once I have all my assets, of course, in place pretty quickly. So you can see here I have my my background gradient. So I'm going to select this and put it over here. And I'm going to select this rectangle, and there's a little drop down here called resize. This is really important if you're working in responsive. So always make sure you look at any object that you select and go into this drop down and make sure that you have it selected for the right piece. So I actually want this to stretch full browser width. Boom. So what that's going to do now is I'm going to preview it really quick.
Is that a technical frame? Boom.
Boom is part of it. Yeah, that's something you learn when you pair a lot. You're like boom, boom. Yeah.
Got it.
So you can see stretch full browser width just says it's going to always stretch that blue. So now I want this to be in the entire background. So I'm going to push that up a little bit, move that down, and you can already see we're almost there to the design itself. So again, I'm going to copy some of these just to give me my different steps here. I'm not going to change the content, but you can see how it's really easy. Once I've made an element or a component, I can just click these things and copy them around. And again, I have another asset here. I have this line. Let me see if I have it in Illustrator really quick, because I can show you guys how to copy and paste that over. But let's just pretend I did. So here's the line.
Exactly. As demos go. No.
As demos goes. We said we're going to wing it, so part of the wing.
We said we're going to fake it.
And fake it.
Good job.
Good job.
Look
wow.
at that. Look at that. Lines right up. How did I know all that?
Wow.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good. All right, cool. So now we got that timeline going. Again, I'm not going to fuss with the different contextual content, but I'm going to go back into Illustrator here. I have our icons that we made. So if you think about it, like Adobe Muse is kind of like InDesign for web, right? It's where it's a platform and aggregator for all of your content. So you go into Illustrator, you make all your illustrations and your icons, and you copy them and you paste them over to Muse here, and you pop them in the positions that you want. Click this, see this responsive width and height. I'm just going to make it none because I don't really want nothing happening with this illustration here. I'm going to go back over to Illustrator here. I'm going to grab this guy. You can see the little blue. There's a reason why that's there. I'll show you. Oh, something happened funky, but that's okay. We're just going to keep jamming.
Yeah, I think you grabbed a lot, like select all or something.
Yeah, there's some weird thing. Let me grab one more time.
Yo.
All right, well, it gave it to me. It just gave it to me pretty large, but shouldn't be like that. And I already have the other asset here, so.
Fake it to,
faking it right there. There you go. So again, really easy to copy and paste, just like we did here. And again, now I have my text. So it wasn't like we defined this text right away. It took some time to get the aesthetics right and the type sizes right. But you can see when you use Adobe Muse here is that, say I want a different font for this, I can go into my font window. I can go over here to add web fonts. And I can easily go into Adobe Typekit, grab a whole bunch of fonts that I want to, say I may want to change some of these. And another technical term, boom, we got fonts, 4 new fonts added to my family of fonts now. And now I could go use these web fonts. So just not only with Muse are you allowed to, you have capabilities in responsive, you also have the power of thousands of fonts from Typekit and Edge, not millions.
There's 1,500 Typekit fonts, and there's another 10,000 third-party fonts that you can license through the Typekit library. So it is thousands for sure.
Cool. And then let me show you guys real quick how to make a breakpoint. So I'm not going to go into like all the breakpoints we made for the tablet and the mobile, but let's just do a mobile real quick. So you can see as I adjust my content here, all of that is starting to break, right? So these are good times to put in your breakpoints, but you can see right here is about where I want my mobile to be at. I'm going to press this create new breakpoint. Let me zoom in a little bit. And now I'm in a new space. So if I go click on that other breakpoint, I'm now in web layout. And when I click on this other breakpoint here at 410, now I'm going to be at the actual mobile layout. So let's go ahead and I'm going to turn some of these pieces off or move them down here at the bottom. I'll extend these up just a little bit. And I won't get too crazy and fanatical with this because it's just time and we're going to have more of a proof of concept here. Group these up, stretch these out, send them back. Cool. And I can make my text more in line now. Grab that, push this over. And again, I have some work here, but let me show you the timeline. We can get through the timeline pretty quick. And Dani will kind of pull the plug on me in any moment whenever we want to switch over to Q&A. So again, I wanted this bar to extend a little longer, and I'm going to move some of these pieces out and just kind of create my layout here on the side. Bang, bang, bang. So you get the point. I'm going to just kind of fake some of this and not make it pretty, but you guys can see the point that I'm trying to make is that you can create different designs and treat them differently in each breakpoint. And you have the freedom to move content around, to change content, to add additional content, or even remove content when you go to these different breakpoints. So I'm going to delete this little line here. I don't want this line in this layout. It's a vertical line. So what I'm going to go here is go into my layers. I'm going to select that line. And I'm going to turn it off just for this breakpoint. Now I'm going to go back over to my other breakpoint. Oh, it's there. It's turned on. So I want to make sure that this line is turned on the web format, but not on the mobile. So that's how we can remove content as well. And then you can see, like, I won't align this, but you can see I can easily adjust my layout now for the web version or the responsive version. And I can move my little pointer here if I wanted to the right. And this will be pointing in the right direction, center out my content here. And look how fast that was. One of the things that Leslie and I have done using Adobe Muse is within one day, we've created a layout based off an assumption or a learning that we thought people would interact with a design a certain way. And we created a layout in one day. And by the end of that day, we were testing that layout with real code, real content. We were wrong, which was good, but we were wrong in one day, right? We lost one day rather than 3 months.
Right. And we didn't have any developers coding and throwing away a bunch of code too.
And that's expensive. Like imagine throwing away 10,000 lines of code. We don't want to do that, right? So we want to look for tools in the market that allow us to design in the actual space that code is going to be created in. So that way we create a bridge to our engineers. And we don't want to have this like, I don't know what designers think. They do crazy stuff and they don't understand our world of code. We want to remove that, right? We want to understand their world. We want to design within the limitations of their world, so that way we're all in sync in what we're doing. And that's the power of Adobe Muse. A designer that doesn't know code is a designer. A designer that knows Adobe Muse is now a web designer too. And that's the beauty of Muse being a tool, right? It gives designers superpowers. And so a person like me, I don't know code, and it's allowed me to do many things that I wanted to do that kept me from doing it because the lack of knowledge of writing my own code. I don't need that anymore. And I'm actually not all interested in learning code anymore. I just use Adobe Muse and I have fun with it. And I'm pretty content with it. So you can see here that breakpoints are done. Again, there's more layout and content we'd have to fix, but that was about 5 minutes. We made a mobile layout, and we took the same assets from our web layout as well. We can also show how to put a video in if you guys want to. That's pretty easy.
Chat's kind of quiet. If you have questions, go ahead and throw it in the chat. We can catch them. We can get broader too. There have been a few general questions about Muse that I've been answering. Turns out I was answering just Michael for about half the session. So if you did throw in a question and I didn't catch it, feel free to throw it back in. We are 3 minutes from the top, so I'm going to do a couple things. Mr. Lawrence, because you own this session, let me just come on in. We're going to put up a poll. This is a new thing for us. I have not done this in a while, so I want to hear a little bit from folks before anybody drops off if this is effective for you. So instead of hearing me locked up in a phone room by myself for an hour, is this really nice? There were a number of amazing Mac sessions. Aaron actually has another session that he gave on typography, which I love. It's just so robust and rich. I'm going to go ahead. Host and panelists can't vote.
Dang it.
I don't know. We promised to work on our technology a little bit better going forward, because I don't even think you can even answer the post or answer the poll for some reason. But so Valerie says it was nice, but the glitches in the sound were a bummer. I think if we had network connectivity, number one, and number two, some of the rights management handled with Zoom, we'd be in a tighter place. So thank you for sticking with us on that. It looks like, all right, great. So the polling questions are being answered. One rule, I know who you are. If you say that it fell below standards, you have to put into the chat why you think that, or else I'll come get you and I'll make you tell me why. But going forward, we'll fine tune some of the bumps and I think continue to do this. Jam session for me in 2 weeks is going to be, in all honesty, at Max, we did about 2 or 3 sessions where some of our amazing designers talked about tips and tricks for using Muse. So I'm going to gather up all their great ideas and roll them into one massive tips and tricks on responsive design in 2 weeks.